Okay, so let's keep trying to take this very simple sentence and add some details to make it more powerful. And the way we're going to add details is by answering basic asking sentences or questions. So the very simple sentence is, we use clocks. Okay, so you could add details by asking, when do we use clocks? Why do we use clocks? How do we use clocks? So for when, you could say, I just jotted down some ideas. When do we use clocks? Could be every day. And just when you're doing this, jot down ideas that come to your mind. You don't have to use every idea, but you want to get the idea down on paper. So when do we use clocks? Every day, comma, or during the day. I was thinking we kind of use clocks at night, but not always. I mean, you use them to wake up sometimes. But when you're asleep, you're not usually keeping track of time using a clock. So mostly it's during the day. So I just jotted those two fragments down. Why do we use clocks? Well, we use them to either, I wrote, well, to keep track of time, or I said schedule, to stay on schedule. Like at school, we use clocks to keep track of when we should be in math and when we should be in literacy and when we should be at recess and when we should have gym and so on and so on. So it's to keep track of a schedule or to keep track of time. That's why we use clocks. And then how do we use clocks? Well, we use them by looking at the minute hand and the hour hand. If you have an analog clock, that's usually what you do. You look at the minute hand and the hour hand and you decide what the time is. Okay, so now if I was going to try to combine these ideas and turn this into a more powerful sentence, you could say we use clocks every day. You could say every day we use clocks. You could say we use clocks during the day. You could say we use clocks to keep track of time. If we're going to do that and put the to keep track of time at the end, then maybe you want to say every day in the beginning. So it could be every day, comma, we use clocks to keep track of time. And then how? You could say every day we use clocks to keep track of time by looking, so you can just add that word, by looking at the minute hand and the hour hand. All right, so now that is a lot of details. It begins to paint a picture in the mind of your reader. So let's see here. Every day, comma, we use clocks to keep track of time by looking at the, and I changed it around because I thought, even though here I wrote looking at the minute and the hour hand, really when you're keeping track of time, usually you look at the hour hand first because that's the bigger amount of time is the hour. So I'd say we look at the hour hand and the minute hand. So you see how by answering these questions, I was able to come up with details to turn we use clocks into every day we use clocks to keep track of time by looking at the hour hand and the minute hand. So one of the tricks to this is just jotting down ideas and not being too worried about the exact wording right away. You can work that out later, but just jot down ideas to get them out of your brain and onto the paper, and then you can work out the exact way you use the words when you write your complete sentence. Okay, so let's just quickly try it. Here it says people belong to groups, and then I came up with, you could ask who, what, why. So who belongs to groups? Well, all people, right? You could say all people. You could say everyone. I guess you could say, so what groups? Well, you could say one group everyone belongs to is a family. We all belong. What else do we all belong to? We belong to a country, right? Why do we belong to groups? To help take care of our needs, help take care of our needs and wants. Okay, so now if I was going to turn this into a complete sentence, I could say all people belong to groups like their family or their country in order to help take care of our needs and wants, or their needs and wants. So I would write all people belong to groups, and this would be in a positive, like families and countries. Why don't we just do that, like families and countries to help take care of our wants and needs. How about of theirs, since we're talking about all kind of not just us but people in general. So we'll say of their, take care of their wants and needs. Okay, so now by answering these questions, and these were not very difficult answers to come up with, but we turned people belong to groups into all people belong to groups like families and countries to help take care of their wants and needs. That is a much more powerful sentence than that. Okay, so now I am going to ask you to try this. The goal is not for it to be perfect, but for you to make progress. Practice makes progress. So I'm going to ask you to write your name and number at the top of this paper. This is the paper that your mom or dad or somebody in your family or somebody at your house is going to print off, hopefully, or at least that you can copy. Write your name and your number, and then the directions. Well, the title is Making Sentences More Powerful by Expanding Ideas. Who, what, where, when, why, how. Those are the asking words that you're going to answer. So the directions: expand simple sentences by adding details that answer each asking word. So you're going to add details to answer each asking word, just like we did on this page and on the first page. Then, so first write your details after each asking word, and then combine the details into a powerful sentence. That's what you're going to do down here. So the first sentence, we see the moon. Okay, so now think, when do we see the moon? So, because I came up with 3 asking words I thought you could answer. So when do we see the moon? Well, at night or most nights. So write your ideas. It could be at night, it could be most nights. Think of when you see the moon. How do you see the moon? Well, this is kind of important. You've learned about this in science. With your eyes, but how do your eyes see the moon? Does the moon generate its own light? No. From light waves from the sun reflect off the moon and go into your eyes. So you could say light waves from sun reflect off moon, and if you need to go down here you can, and go into your eyes. Where do you see the moon? Well, it could be outside, It could be, oh, in the sky. Yeah, you see the moon in the sky. All right, so now write your ideas, and then how would you combine them? You could say something like, we see the moon in the sky when light waves from the sun reflect off of it and go into our eyes. Or you could say, most nights we see the moon we see the moon in the sky as light waves from the sun reflect off of it and go into our eyes, or something like that. Okay? So I gave you a lot of ideas for that one. For number 2, I'm going to probably ask you to come up with more ideas on your own, but I'll guide you through it. It says, the moon appears to change shape, right? It does. You saw that in the videos that were in our science lesson on Monday, right? I mean, yesterday, I'm sorry, yesterday. So then, how does the moon change shape? Well, the moon changes shape by orbiting around the Earth, right? So you could write orbiting around the Earth. When does it change shape? Well, it takes 28 days, right? So every 28 days it changes shapes. Why does it change shape? Because the Earth blocks some of the light from the sun. So you could say, the moon appears to change shape while orbiting the Earth every 28 days as the Earth blocks the sun's light waves. Or you could say, the moon appears to change shape while orbiting the Earth every 28 days. You could just say that. You could say, every 28 days, the moon appears to change shape as it orbits the Earth because some of the sun's light waves get blocked by the Earth. Or you could say, because the sun's light waves do not reach all of the moon. So I'm going to leave that one up to you. But I think you're going to want to add details. I hope you'll add details about how it has something to do with the moon orbiting the Earth, something to do with 28 days, it's a cycle, and something to do with us not seeing all of the part of the moon that the light waves reflect off of. Okay, but when you're trying to make these sentences more complex, you could just do 2 of these ideas and combine them into a sentence. So, again, does it have to be perfect? No. Is this pretty advanced stuff for first grade? Yes. But the point is, we're trying to add details to make more powerful sentences. And if you get really good at that, then you're going to become a really powerful writer in 2nd grade and 3rd grade and 4th grade and all the way up to the time you're a grown-up. All right, so give it your best shot and then have your mom or dad send me the pages sometime this week. I look forward to seeing your most excellent and most powerful sentences. Cheers.